The air quality? Air. The quality of the air. Was it horrible? Okay. Really? Really? Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hare Punjabi Hare Gopi Janavallabha Girivanar Hari Vallabha Girivanar Hari Gopi Janavallabha Girivanar Hari Vallabha Girivanar Hari Yasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Jana Brajagana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Jana Brajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhari Girivadhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadhari Janavallabha Girivadhari Yasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Jana Brajagana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Jana Brajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Acharya Santa Shri Mother's Divine Grace H.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haryas Thakur Ki Prem Sakosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shishi Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakta Devi Ki Shishi Radha Golokananda Ki Samaveda Bhaktarinda Ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, continuing our reading, Canto 10, Chapter 43, Text 16. Rital. What are we at? 16? Oh, 16, I think. Yeah. 1043, 16. Which one is that? 1046. 1043 is where we're at. Make sure. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now I started getting confused, which is easy. Okay. Uh, Vital, Gopai, Kati Payer, Vital, Gopai, Kati Payer, Baladev, Janardano, Baladev Janardano, Rangam, Vivisatu, Rajan, Ragam Vivisatu Ranjan, Gaja, Danta, Varayudao, Rit, Rit, Rital Gopia, Rital Gopai Katipayar, Bala Deva Janardanu, Rangam Visaturajan, Gajadanta Varayudao, Rital Gopai Katipayar, Bala Deva Janardana, Rangam Visaturajan, Gajadanta Varayudao, Rital Gopai Katipayar, Baladeva Janardana, Rangam Vivi Saturanjan, Gajadanta Varayuda. Okay. Gata Tata Katipayar. Rital Gopa Katipayar, Baladeva Janardana, Rangam Vivi Saturanjan, Ganjadanta Varayuda, Rital Gopai Katipayar, Baladeva Janardana, Rajan Vivisatu Rajan, Ganjadata Varayado. Anybody else? Rital, surrounded. Gopai by cowherd boys. Kati Payahi, several. Baladev Janardano, Balaram and Krishna, Rangam, the arena. Vivisato entered. Ranjan, O King Pariksit, Gajadanta, the elephant's tusk, Bara, chosen, Anudaya, those weapons. Whose weapons? I'm sorry. Okay, translation. My dear king, Lord Baladev and Lord Janardana each carried one of the elephant's tusks as his chosen weapon, entered the arena with several cowherd boys. So please repeat. My dear king, Lord Baladev and Lord Janardana each carried one of the elephant's tusks as his chosen weapon, entered the arena with several cowherd boys. So we have a short commentary by Jiva Goswami, and then we're going to read the next verse, which is a very popular verse. Jiva Goswami points out that to reinforce the previous verse, further description is added. Some of Krishna's close friends from Goloka had come along with elders such as Nanda. Balaram manifested special power at this moment to kill the wicked. Out of affection for his younger brother, devotees like Narada had requested that Krishna kill Kamsa. Sukadev calls out to Parikshit, "Enjoy, O king." They put the tusk on their shoulders as the best of weapons to kill Kamsa and to instill fear in him. Or they put the best elephant tusk on their shoulders as weapons. So he gives an alternative translation. Om Ganda Timarandasha Ganajana Shilakaya Chakshur Om Litam Yena Taishmai Sri Gurave Namaha. As he points out, this actually goes with the previous verse. Sometimes they're put together and sometimes they're separated, but this is the previous verses. Leaving the dead elephant aside, Lord Krishna held onto the tusk and entered the wrestling arena. With the tusk resting on his shoulder, drops of elephant's blood and sweat sprinkled all over his body, and his lotus face covered with fine drops of his own perspiration. The Lord shone with great beauty. We have a really detailed description of what's happening here. And then, my dear king, Lord Baladev and Lord Janardana, each carrying one of the elephant's tusks as his chosen weapon, entered the arena with several cowherd boys. So text 17. Malanam asanir nirnam nardavara shringnam smarno mutimam gopanam swagano satam krishti bujam shashtasva prito susi mrityur boja patir virat avidusham tatvam param yoginam Vrishninam para devateti vidito rangam gata sangrajam. So that rangam comes again. We know that is the arena. That just stuck out to me, that we know the translation of that word. Translation. The various groups of people in the arena regarded Krishna in different ways. When he entered it with his elder brother, the wrestlers saw Krishna as a lightning bolt, the men of Mathura as the best of males, the women as Cupid in person, the cowherd men as their relative, the impious rulers as a chastiser, his parents as their child, and the king of Bojas as death, the unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form, the yogis as the absolute truth, and the Vrishnis as their supreme worshipful deity. The unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form. I guess when all these, there's 10 of them here, and we're going. The purports really bring out details, which we're going to read, but describing that in that way is still a form of the Lord that even the simple-minded people can somehow relate to God in some way. So purport by Hrinananda Goswami. Srila Sridhar Swami quotes the following verse, which explains the 10 attitudes towards Krishna described here. Rajau dubutascha sringaro hasham virodayatata Vayanakascha vibhat sa santahi sa prema bhakti kahi. There are 10 different moods. Fury, perceived by the wrestlers. So these are a little bit different here. These moods are explained the 10 we just read. This is again by Sridhar Swami, the original Sridhar Swami. Fury perceived by wrestlers, wonder by men, conjugal attraction, the women, laughter, the cowherds, chivalry, the kings, mercy, his parents, terror, Kamsa, ghastliness, the unintelligent. Ghastliness must be in the universal form there, because it's pretty frightening. Even Arjuna was, okay, I've seen enough of this, Peaceful neutrality, the yogis, and loving devotion, the Vrishnis. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that people like the wrestlers, Kamsa, and the impious rulers perceive Krishna as dangerous, angry, or threatening because they fail to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Actually, Lord Krishna is everyone's friend and well-wisher, but because we rebel against him, he chastises us, and thus we may perceive him as threatening. Krishna, or God, is actually merciful, and when he punishes us, that is also his mercy. It's his energy is actually doing a lot of the work, because it's karma. We do something, what goes around comes around. So he's doing it differently than he's going to kill Kamsa, which is personified in a human form. Our suffering comes from our own stupidity, as is pointed out, our own actions. We reap what we sow. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes the following Vedic statement: Vaso vai saha rasam hi ye vapam labhavan anadi bhavanti. He himself is rasa, a taste of mellow, of a particular relationship. And certainly one who achieves this rasa becomes anadi, filled with bliss. Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7.1. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati quotes a further verse to explain the word rasa. Vaititya bhavana vartam vartma yaschama tarka parabhuhi ridi sattvo jivale badham svadate saraso mata. That which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder, and relished in the heart, shining with goodness, such is known as rasa. So we're talking about spiritual platform here. This pure goodness, Sudha Sattva. As Srila Rupa Goswami elaborately explains in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are 5 main rasas: neutrality, servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love, and 7 secondary rasas: amazement, humor, chivalry, compassion, fury, fear, and dread. This altogether, there are 12 rasas, and the supreme object of them all is Sri Krishna himself. In other words, our love and affection are actually meant for Krishna. Unfortunately, out of ignorance, we stubbornly try to squeeze happiness and love out of material relationships, which are not directly connected to Krishna. And thus life becomes a constant frustration. The solution is simple: surrender to Krishna, love Krishna's devotees, and be happy forever. Easier said than done. The done part is where we have to work. That's why we come to class. That's why we chant every day. That's why we, follow regulated principles, different rules, so we can come to this platform. One of these things that was really interesting was when he went through all, was the laughter, the cowherd boys, when he listed all these, because they're with Krishna, they're coming down, they're just in amazement. He's coming into Mathura, he's going down all these streets, he's doing all these amazing things, and they're laughing. And we'll read later where when Krishna kills the wrestlers, he brings them up on the wrestling arena, and they're all dancing and having a good time. This is before he kills Kamsa. So they're in a blissful mood, so that that's their relationship. Obviously, they have no fear. I mean, you wouldn't have any fear if you saw Krishna do the things he did. You would be completely secure in your association with him. So we're going to read the commentaries in a little bit. We're going to try to talk about a few things here. We had mentioned this is a detailed description. We get a very good description here by Sukadeva Goswami of these events as they take place. And the scene is actually set for Krishna. In the previous chapter, we talked about how everybody came into the arena, each one took their seats, all the people that were there. Here we're seeing how they all saw Krishna as he entered the arena. With the stages set, they're all sitting, they're all waiting for the wrestling match to take place. Kamsa's thinking, of course, his heart was in fear that the night before he was troubled in heart. He knew his death personified is getting closer and closer. Even though he kept putting up obstacles, he figures, I don't know if he thinks it's going to slow it down or this is the last thing that's going to actually work to stop Krishna. He keeps in his mind or his heart, he's thinking, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. We all of us try to, we hang on to life as much as possible. People do as much as they can. Just try to live as long as they can. This is because we're so self-interested. This is just one of the situations we find ourselves. This is explained, as I mentioned this before, that this is the Brahma Muhurti, not Brahma Muhurti, but the Brahma, the illusion of Brahma Mohan Lila. At the end of that chapter, after Brahma gives all of his prayers and praise to Krishna, and Sukadeva Goswami, starting at text 50, for the last 8 or 10 texts of that chapter, he points out how self-centered everybody in the material world is. And he goes to this, and everything that we do, even though subconsciously or consciously, it's about us. Even when we think it's about somebody else, it's about us. I'm doing something for my wife. I'm doing something for my kids. But it's all about I'm doing something for them. So Prabhupada talks about in this how affection grows. In a Bhagavad Gita lecture in London, 73, he talks about affection starts with ourselves. We're self-centered. Then we develop affection for those around us, family members. And then in this way, our attachment and our way we become entangled in the material world grows. So how we get out of that entanglement is we reverse that process. So we had, as a devotees, we learned these things. Of course, Kamsa, he's, still wanting to hang on to his position that he's usurped, put obstacles in Krishna's way, and one by one, Krishna just, even from as a child, is eliminated every single thing that Kamsa's tried to do to eliminate him. And now he's seeing him coming into the arena. And this beautiful description of him is described. Ratna Radhika gave a real nice class Friday about that, him entering into the arena. And so he thinks now the wrestler's going to deal with him. And it's interesting, these wrestlers, they come into the arena also prior to, to Krishna coming in, because he's held up. And Kamsa's got to hear this noise outside the arena. Krishna's fighting this elephant. We read he's battling this elephant. Description like how he drags him by the tail about 100 feet backwards, and just, like you do a cow is the way it was described. So, there's how an elephant makes noise. There's probably commotion outside. So he's hearing all this, and he knows the battle because he's already given instructions, to have this elephant, to kill Krishna. But then everything gets quiet, and then who walks in the arena? Who's the victor? Krishna walked in. So, constantly, oh my God, it continues, So now he thinks the wrestlers are going to do it. And by the time Krishna gets to Kamsa, he was like completely mortified. So, Kamsa is actually a product of an illicit sex life. The story is that this demon disguised himself as Ugrasena and approached his wife. And then from that relationship, Kamsa was born. But technically, he was still a relative of Krishna's, even though he was his uncle, on his mother's side, But Maya sets everything up in such a way. Maya is so strong. And Prabhupada said one of the problems that his disciples had with it, they had no fear of Maya. They didn't have a healthy enough fear of Maya. And we really need to have a healthy enough fear for Maya, because Maya is expert as Krishna's energy. It's his external energy. It's very good. Maya is always fulfilling our desires. We work hard to have these desires fulfilled. You see in society today, it's just a huge amount of endeavor goes into struggle for existence and try to create a particular household, particular lifestyle that each individual tries to have. And it's a huge amount of endeavoring. And we see the industry now as such a service industry. We people, especially in this country, don't really want to work. So they import a lot of people to do a lot of the jobs. And there's jobs you see for hire everywhere now. You see signs everywhere. And most of these are the lower industry type jobs that most people don't want to engage in. But these, even, you can hire somebody to drive you somewhere. You can Uber, or you can have Uber just to bring you food. You don't even have to get out of your house and go. They just bring it to you, So this is such a self-centered service. It's just growing this way. And it's so difficult, if you talk about spiritual life, you got to reverse that serve me to serve you in so many different ways. It's the hardest thing about anything is getting started, is sometimes taking that first step. That's the most difficult thing. And then you have to get some momentum going. Some determination has to be in there in order to do that. And with some determination, then you get some enthusiasm, and that really propels one, especially when you're talking about spiritual life, when you try trying to keep on. Enthusiasm is a huge part of this process. And we can see by reading stories like this, and Krishna kicking butt the way he does, and the chivalry, that these stories and there's so many of them. That's why we have Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the beautiful story of the Lord. That's what Srimad Bhagavatam means. And it's so full of these stories. So we have all these things. Of course, their sex life is one of the biggest entanglement. But even yogis who conquer lust to a degree, they perform all these austerities, and they eventually do all this meditation or whatever they do, and they acquire all these siddhas. There's still the one snares that they think that I'm God. They think they're so powerful, like I am. Their self-centeredness has grown to the point, it's the last snare is considered. Even before they try to escape, even the Brahmajyoti, they wherever they endeavoring to go, they become so powerful, it's described that they fall sometimes, if they're not determined enough, under the trap of their own Maya, their own power, their own mind. So this snare of Maya continues. And for us, our only hope is to chant the holy name of the Lord. It's our salvation. It's the only thing. And that it's one of those things that we have to do it every day, as often as we can during the day, for the rest of our lives. It's not that we've done it for so many years, I'm all caught up now, I don't have to do it anymore. It's like we chant so many rounds a day. Okay, I've done that for the day. I'm all caught up, like Prabhupada said, now we can do any damn thing we please. It's like, it doesn't That's the minimum, Prabhupada often said. This is the minimum. It's a starting point. It's the initiation. This is where you begin, these 16. So many things help us support that process. The first and foremost is each other and in the association of devotees. And then that is really helped maintained by the temple. The temple, having a temple allows people to come to a certain area or a certain place and congregate with like-minded people. Because if there was no temple, then almost we're left to our own devices, even though the community is growing in Krishna consciousness. Suppose it was everything at one point everybody lived in the temple, but now the communities are growing because the expansion of devotees are growing. Of course, they're having offspring, they're having children, so it's growing in different types of ways. But you have a place where their center, where everybody can come. People have deities. I have deities in my house. Everybody seems to have some deities in their house. So you have some worship, which is good because when you're at home, you want the Lord to be living with you, not only in your rounds, but just having deity worship enhances that consciousness. But the association of devotees, even me, I have my house, but being able to get out and come to the devotees, even though I don't come as much as I used to. I think I'm a little bit older, maybe a little bit lazier. I got off the alarm clock like 3 or 4 years ago. When I went to India, I said, I don't think I'm going to use the alarm clock anymore, And that worked good for like 2 or 3 years because the momentum of always getting up at a particular time. But then it started, of course, COVID and different things having an impact on it. But then say, okay, you want to sleep an extra 10 minutes or whatever your REM sleep, you catch you in there. And next thing you know, I'm not getting up till 4:30, So I'm missing Mangal Artik sometimes. Sometimes you just wake up, like this morning I was up. But the temple is so important. So at the point the separation, even for a little bit, you can feel it when you're around it all the time, the separation. Because you open a crack, Maya would definitely step in and fill that space. So we have to constantly be on guard to protect our sadhana as we continue to make advancement. So, Krishna is also demonstrating how he can actually break these bonds, that if we just surrender to Krishna, he will protect us. So many times he says that he can do this. And it's just up to us to have our faith continually grow, and our faith develops in such a way that we constantly take shelter of Krishna. That's done by his representatives, the devotees, and we continue to take shelter of them also. It's kind of interesting, and then after Krishna kills Kamsa, of course, Kamsa's queens, it's always sorrow when somebody dies, and then Krishna has sympathy for them and some for his Kamsa. So then he arranges the funeral rites and he takes care of it. We'll read about that later in Srimad Bhagavatam. But the process continues. He always is maintaining responsible, and even toward the queens, he was having some sorrow for them. He was being empathic and trying to console them, with like I mentioned, sympathy. So he's always caring, and in all his dealings, and sometimes we might not think that when he kills somebody, how is that? But Kamsa was in such a position that sometimes the Lord has to come himself to deal with certain personalities. They become so strong that there's no other way. Of course, the minute as Prahlad says to his friends, the moment we begin our plans to enjoy, our conditions of suffering begin at the same time, because it's twofold. Everything is twofold. There's the upside, the downside, right? Maharaj went to India. The upside, go to the Holy Dham. The downside, you got to breathe some, pretty obnoxious stuff. The pollution is pretty bad. Unhealthy, I guess, to a certain extent, too. So it's the upside, downside. This is the material world. Upside is Krishna. Krishna's devotees, as said in this the purport there. Let me find it again. Oh yeah, he points out, Hrinanda Goswami points out, the solution is simple. Surrender to Krishna, love Krishna's devotees, and be happy forever. Lord Chaitanya said something similar to Nityananda and Haridas go out. See, I can remember things. The same thing, surrender to Krishna, love Krishna, and chant Krishna's name. So he said, teach everybody these things. And of course he did by his own example, as we're reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, these same things. Okay, so any question? I didn't really think I'd go that long before I started reading one of the commentaries. Anybody has any additional comments so far? Anything? Yeah. Yeah, he was born from an illicit relationship for a demon, right? Yeah. Well, we also got to always remember where we came from. Where we came from. So we talk about in the movement. What's in the movement? What's in the movement was a result of material society. All the people who are cat and dog society. That's who make up our movement. But they're in the shower trying to clean up their act. That's what being Krishna conscious is. That's what being in a religion is. Once you start getting within a group of people, there start rules and regulations about how you associate with one another. That becomes religion. So if people oftentimes, which not often, they'll revert back to some of the things that some scars they had when they were young, when they grew up. They grew up in a public education system. They grew up in Maya, whatever Maya's throwing at them. That's what they also bring to the movement with. That's who we are. The only thing that makes us any different is the influence that we have. And the mercy, like Prabhupada, the mercy that all the devotees are given mercy. Everybody who stays in the association of devotees, everybody who working on it. It's not full of pure devotees. It's full of sadhakas, people endeavoring to perfect themselves. They have a goal. They're trying to achieve that goal. And when people make mistakes, what does Krishna say? Even though he commits the most abominable act, he's to be considered saintly. So that's how we have to see everybody else. That's how we develop humility. So these things are going to happen. It's going to happen. Religion, Bhaktisiddhanta said, is a necessary evil when he developed his movement. It's so important because without it, we can't function in this country or any other country without organized religion. Because we can't come together. We can't have temples like this. We can't have the legal status that is afforded to a particular temple that allows us to, because oftentimes it's been tried to stop it early on. Even in this country, Russia, almost every country, they tried to stop the Hare Krishna movement. But they couldn't stop Prabhupada. There's no way they could stop. He knew, because even in certain attacks that came, like even in Australia, they kept throwing people in jail, but, just keep going out. Just keep, because there's this, like almost like say a non-cooperation movement like the Gandhi, but eventually the tide of the people, the public saw how they were being treated, devotees. So once you won them over, that had a big impact. Prabhupada knew that. It was just a matter of time. So I hope I helped you with that. You want to follow up with that, or did you have a? Kansa's father, what's his name? It's a Dramilla, yeah. Two Dramillas. You're going to say, oh, is that what she asked? I mean, I didn't hear.
Yeah, there's two Jamila.
Two Jamila.
One is the same. Yeah, he's one of the W.
Yeah.
That's not the same.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanda Maravindanayatakam Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kandar Hakom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Vikayanti Viramati Ananda Chimaya Sadu Dala Vikrasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govinda. Namahum Vishnu Krishna Prastaya Putale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pacha Nivasesha Shunyavadi Pashachadi Sacharane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gatada Sivasati Gaurata Vrenda Jaya Sri Krishna. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaurata Sivasati Gaurata Vrenda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaurata Sivasati Gaurata Vrenda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Rama Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Madhare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Madhare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya Radha, looking on the Radha, looking on the Radha. Jaya Radha, looking on the Radha, go looking on the Radha. Jaya Radha, Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Charya, Hospitala, Shri Shima, His Divine Grace, Pranama, Prana, Gosai, Bhagavad, ISKCON Sound, Anandagoti, Namacharya, Shlila, Thakur, Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasidi Gaur Bhaktavinda Kijai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Jayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam Kijai Mathurnam Kijai Jagannath Swami Kijai Manamai Kijai Shimati Gavasti Kijai Veda Bhakta Vrinda Kijai Gaur Premananda Hari Gaur. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories. Chaito Darpanamashanam Bhavamata birth and death. Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because its benediction moon is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone, render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. How fortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, my eyes be decorated with tears flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shikshashika ki jai. Radha Golokananda ki jai. Ki jai.